Hi, here are my flashcards. There's 10 here, and then 2 of them have stuff written on the back. So I'm gonna go ahead and pan around the room real quick. So here's over here and behind me, and then here's this over here, and I'm gonna go ahead and move this chair out of the way so I don't trip over it during my speech, because that's something I would do. So here we go, got my flashcards. All right. Tattoos are impactful pieces of human culture and art that have been around for decades. They are compelling forms of self-expression that inherit meanings of all kinds. For example, many people choose to tattoo names of loved ones, memorable dates, or even symbols to convey a deeper meaning for them. According to an online article by Inside Out written by Alexandra Isloff, on July 26, a recent Pew study found that nearly 40% of people between the ages of 18 and 29 have at least one tattoo. They are increasingly becoming more and more popular than they were ever before. However, while they are more exponentially prominent than they were 20 years ago, there still lies quite a negative stigma attached to them, especially when it comes to the workplace. I have a tattoo that I got last October, and not once have I been ridiculed or denied a job because of it. Today, I'm going to discuss the stigma surrounding tattoos and how it should be outdated and a thing of the past in today's society. To begin, I want to dive into the history of tattoos and how they began to be stigmatized. In an online article on The Signal, written on January 16, 2018, by Christina Maxoris, most negative connotations behind tattoos began quite a long time ago. Maxoris states that the stigma mostly came from situations in which tattoos were seen as signs of rebellion, such as the 50s era, with greasers and teenagers that were trying to fit into the gang activity at the time. Many parents of teenagers during this era, whom of which are baby boomers now, largely are the cause of the negatively surrounding stigma of the tattoos. And that's just what they were used to at the time. With it now being 2021, that's obviously a thing that's grown old. So Max Orris also states that the stigma can come from people who believe that their religion prevents them from getting tattoos, such as many Christians and Catholics that say that Jesus said in the Bible that running on your body is a sin. However, this truly only affects those who are actually religious and should not generalize everyone who chooses to get a tattoo on their body or not. Those who do choose to think themselves are unfairly looked at and perceived by others for their own personal decision. Even if someone wishes to put tattoos on their body, it does not immediately make them a criminal or a gang member. This is severely unfair to people who simply want to put a date that their deceased family member passed away on to be seen forever, or even the names of their own children. For them to be put into a single stereotype is oppressing. How would you feel if your mother got a tattoo and someone harassed her, calling her dangerous, a criminal, or a gang member? In a TED Talk by Amanda Liu at Kent State University, she talks of some of the words that are used to describe someone with tattoos, which I talked about before. Some of which include unreliable, deviant, and even irresponsible. Liu makes several important points though that help explain why these statements are untrue. She states that cultures all over the world have been using tattoos to symbolize significant ideologies in their belief systems for years. These cultures around the globe slowly influenced the trend in the United States, causing mass excitement over the new ways that Americans could express themselves. Liu even mentioned that these cultural tattoos signify distinctive markings that could even link families together, specifically the Polynesian culture that indicated that those who were in charge of tattooing others had one of the most prestigious roles in their communities. In the past, these were not seen as unfavorable, but of high rank. Now that I have discussed the reasons for the oppressing stigma and the importance of tattoos in various cultures, I want to dive into the workplace and how others view tattoos as being unprofessional in these fields. After interviewing several groups of people that work in numerous types of jobs and environments, the answer to my questions was mostly the same. When asked if those had ever had any problems with their tattoos interfering with how they completed their work, the answer 100% of the time was no. The people I had talked to ranged from a physical therapist to people in the fast food industry, so it was all over the place. In each spectrum, however, the ink on their body never presented an issue with the people that they worked with and even the customers throughout the day that they would interact with. In an academic study report written by Hailey for the IU South Bend Undergraduate Research Journal in 2012, their original hypothesis stated that there is a stigma attached to individuals in the workplace in comparison to those who don't have tattoos. Nonetheless, with their extensive research and the surveys that they gave to their study participants, with questions based on, whether they believed that tattoos were okay or not in places of work, and it came out that their original hypothesis was incorrect. Hailey had found that the finding was actually in direct opposition to the original hypothesis, and that people do not actually find tattoos to be as unprofessional as many people have thought before. This is largely due to society's growing tolerance and acceptance for them, as the negative stigma is slowly being left behind. Now that I have discussed some ways in which tattoos are perceived as taboo, I want to talk about the positive aspects that having tattoos can have on a person. Rather than just being seen as disrespectful. According to the British Journal of Ethics in 2018, volume 60, it talks about how tattoos aren't just tattoos, but instead a work of art that is showcased on your body in unique and beautiful ways. On page 419 of this book, of this journal, it states, "I argue that tattoo art is an art form that creates artworks in living skin, and that the living body is an essential component and contributor to the artwork." Those with ink often find themselves being able to form community with others due to their similarities and love of tattoos. Most people that do choose to get tattoos do not have anything against those who do wish to get tattoos or don't, but the same can't always be said about the opposing side, and that is what I wish to get through to you today. Now, to wrap things up, I just want to go over the age-old process that tattooing has been around for literally as long as we can remember. And I personally believe that it will be around for a long time after us as well. They can be special and touching tributes for themselves or others, a canvas for them to create art upon their body, and even amazing ways to interact and form lasting relationships with those who share or don't share a body covered in ink. Today, I hope you leave, with a greater understanding behind the rich history of tattoos, a new perspective on how they may come off, and that you can be more open and accepting to those who choose to modify their bodies. I encourage you to learn more and to be more tolerant with tattoos, because in the end, they're humans, just like me and you. Thanks, that's all.